Det här är Teach Me Sweden, en svensk historiepodcast sprängfylld med humor där 2 stycken komiker försöker lära varandra svensk historia. Jag heter Erik Broström.
And I'm Jonathan Rollins, and in this episode I'll be teaching Erik about a little war that may or may not be the last one here in a while.
Is it the war in Bosnia-Herzegovina?
Maybe. There's some lisps in here. There's some ineptitude in here. And
och lite brevväxling. Eller brevväxling är fel ord.
A little ignoring people that has grave consequences.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Woo!
Snap!
Holy moly.
Scared the bejesus out of me.
I was just sitting here in my mom's room / my studio.
Och trodde att jag var din mamma.
And I was like, where's her melanin? How did she become a white man?
Ma, it looks like you've seen a ghost.
I thought she was transphobic. She's a trans herself. Yeah, man. This is Teach Me Sweden. If you've never heard this podcast before, you're in for a treat.
Eller hur?
First things first, you can go back and listen to like 70 of these.
Exakt.
Second thing second, you get to learn about Swedish history through comedy. I'm going to take this episode an opportunity to teach my friend Erik about a little piece of Sweden.
Och jag kommer göra mig lustig över historien.
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
And we just make jokes out of it because Erik is one of the best improvisational comics in Sweden.
And you are one of the best stand-up comedians in Sweden.
And we're going to combine like Captain Planet and the Planeteers to make...
Jag vet inte vilka det är. Vilka Captain Planet and the Planeteers? Åh nej. Jonathan,
you don't know about Captain Planet?
What is it?
It's like listen up, man. It's like an animated series.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to teach kids about environmental consciousness. And they have these 5 kids who have different powers. Each one has a ring that has a power. And there's earth, fire, wind, water, and heart. These 5...
Heart?
I don't know why. And it's the Indian kid, too. Earth is like this African kid. Fire, I forget where they're all from. But they're all an international group of kids.
Okay.
And they combine their power in order to bring forth the environmental superhero, Captain Planet.
Okay.
So they'll have like some evil person that works for a factory that's pouring in nuclear waste into the river to ruin the town. And then the kids come together and they use their powers to stop this guy. But if they really need the superpower at the end of every episode, when your powers combine, I am Captain Planet.
Varför kan de inte bara göra en gång och låta Captain Planet vara?
They do at the end.
No, but I mean, they do it once. And
hey man, don't try to ruin my childhood. Because it wouldn't be a TV show, man.
Okay. Jag antar att det är dumt att typ försöka förklara logiken.
They got 2 commercial breaks that we got to get through. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
When they got 26 minutes they need, and with 2 2-minute commercial breaks, you can't do all of that.
Okay.
If they just call Captain Planet at the beginning, he'll come out with an attitude. Look, motherfuckers, you got your powers. You could do something. You got fired, man. You could have burnt this motherfucker.
Men har de lite krafter själva också?
Yeah,
typ såhär,
like
I can burn.
And then, like he'll like pull the earth up to block something.
Oh, cool.
And wind will blow, out something, and then fire will burn stuff. Like they do stuff, and then but Captain Planet sometimes he's got to come in and wreck shop for real.
What does Heart do?
I never liked Heart.
No,
little Indian kid,
just loving people.
Just just like do not lose heart. He would say that all the time.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And they say, there's a
he's
song.
the moral, like, he's the pep talk of the group.
Maybe. I don't know, but he did have a ring. But there's a jingle.
For Captain Heart?
Captain Planet.
Oh, Captain Planet.
And I'm going to sing the jingle now.
Okay.
Because good shows back then, this is the 80s, 90s. Those shows had jingles. So it goes like this. Captain Planet, he's our hero. Gonna take pollution down to 0. Gonna help us put asunder bad guys who like to lose their under. And then they say, you'll pay for this, Captain Planet.
Who's that?
We're the planet, a bad guy.
Okay.
We're the Planeteers. You can be one too, because saving our planet is the thing to do. Looting and polluting is not the way. Hear what Captain Planet has to say. The power is yours.
This is very progressive for an American television show in the 80s,
in the
90s.
80s, 90s, man. When I was a kid, man, Captain Planet was that show.
I didn't even know they had like an environmental agenda at all. That's awesome.
Yeah, they do. Cool. And then I lived in Texas for a bit when I was a kid. We're going far, but whatever. I lived in Texas for a bit when I was a kid, and they had like, don't mess with Texas. They do like a Cowboys, like, don't mess with Texas for littering.
Wow.
Telling you if you litter, you're fucking with Texas and we'll kill you type of thing. Oh my
God, someone's going to shoot you.
It's like being aggressive about don't litter. That was their litter campaign. Don't mess with Texas.
Because then Johnny Bravo's going to shoot you.
Captain Planet's going to kick your ass.
Pop a cap in your ass.
With a big belt buckle. You know what I'm saying? You better stop fucking with the environment.
That would have killed me, Captain Texas.
He never spits his tobacco out.
No.
I just swallow it because I love the planet.
Det borde ni också göra, kids.
Remember, spit your tobacco in the toilet.
Swallow your tobacco.
And shit it out later. It's me, Captain Planet.
Nu börjar det låta som en riktig amerikansk tv-serie.
Shoot the bad guys with your AR-15. Captain Planet. Right. But this episode has nothing to do with the environment.
Jag hoppas att det inte har något med miljö att göra, för jag är trött på miljö nu.
Oh yeah, exactly. We're gonna stay away from that.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about something that I'm gonna bury the lead, as we say in our field.
Okay.
After the Russian Emperor Alex I concluded the 1807 Treaty of Tilsit with Napoleon.
Ooh.
Alexander, in his letter on September 24th to the Swedish king, this is 1807, King Gustav Adolf IV. He informed the king that the peaceful relations between Russia and Sweden depended on Sweden's agreement to abide by the limitations of this treaty, which meant that Sweden had to follow the continental system.
Vad innebär det då?
The continental system in French is called blocus continental.
Vad heter det?
Blocus continental.
Is this French?
Yeah, this is French.
Blocus continental.
Blocus continental.
It means that we will keep all the women and the brie.
Exactly. Captain Planet. No, it was also called the continental system. It was a large-scale embargo by Napoleon against the British Empire. And they had enacted it before. So they wanted these, basically it's like a NATO type of thing.
Okay.
So Russia, France, and some other countries, and they're all like south of Sweden, but Sweden would have been really nice to have that as a part of it too, especially considering the water. Yeah. So Alexander the First was like, bro, sign this thing, join us, fuck England.
Okay.
The king was like, Napoleon is the Antichrist.
Oh.
This is what he said.
Okay.
Napoleon's the Antichrist, and I kind of like Britain. You know, they got good food, similar to Swedish food, and fuck France.
Yeah.
So no, I don't want to be a part of it.
Bra Gustav.
So what he did was he said he's going to talk to Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also going to prepare an attack against Denmark.
Fan har de gjort det? Var de med i den här?
Denmark had some, they're part of the bloc too.
Okay.
And Denmark, they had some Norwegian possessions, and he had his eye on those. So he was like, he's like, I'm not going to respond to Alexander. Instead, I'm going to let him just not get an answer, avoid this for a while.
Yeah.
And we're going to fuck up Denmark.
Which brev? Got lost in the mail.
It'll work itself out.
I didn't hear it. I didn't get it.
We have PostNord. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Yeah. Du vet att det tar 5 veckor för oss att få något.
Instead, he attacked Copenhagen like, fuck it.
Snyggt.
Because what could go wrong?
Nej, eller hur?
And Alexander the First was like, what the fuck, bro? We got these treaties. I wrote you the letter. You're not responding. So he said, I demand you, Gustav Adolf, close the Baltic Sea to all foreign warships. I need your help with this.
Boom.
Let's keep these motherfuckers out of here.
Har Ryssland Finland vid det här laget, eller har vi Finland?
We still have Finland right now. No answer. Gustav's like, So then November 16th rolls around. He's like, bro, haven't heard from you. I know.
Du får honom att verka så skön också. Hey man,
it's me, Alexander, bro.
I wrote you 2 times. What up?
Hey, Slim, I wrote you, but you still ain't called me.
I thought we would hang.
He's like, Stan. He's like, Dido, come in here, Dido. Got out of bed at all.
Wrote a letter off from Russia with designation Stockholm. Didn't show up.
Dear Gustav, I wrote you, but you still ain't called me. I left
Dear
my page
G.
myself and my home phone at the bottom. You must not have got him.
The phone's not invented yet, but that's not a problem.
Alexander Graham Bell hasn't done his thing yet. So Gustav, in true Gustav fashion, he took 2 months to respond. It's November now. And then he finally responded like, all right. Send a raven.
Yeah.
He wrote back, Dear Stan, Dear Alexander.
Tell him my palms are sweaty. I just ate mom's spaghetti.
Knees weak, arms are heavy. There's blood on my sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. Send the bird.
Love the G.
This is King G. All right, so he wrote back, it is impossible to honor the previous arrangements as long as the French are in control of the major Baltic ports. Like, fuck that. I don't want to deal with Napoleon.
Yeah, he's Antichrist.
So Gustav, before answering, had already locked it up with Britain. This is now February 1808. But in December 1807, Russia was like, if they don't give a clear... It's you either with us or against us. You're gonna force us to act. And the Swedish officers were like, King, G, I don't know if we could beat Russia in a war. They're bigger than us. They're more experienced than us. It's not a good idea. And Gustav Adolf, he was like, we could defend ourselves against Russia.
I'm the real Slim.
I beat Papa Doc in a battle. Alexander looked at it like, all right, this could be a win for us. If the guy wants to be stubborn, then this is our chance to take that little country between us, Finland. Because if we take Finland, it pushes the Russian-Swedish border further from the capital.
Yeah.
So this works out for us in case of some future hostilities between the two powers. We can it's better for strategically. So let him keep fucking up and we can go take it. Yeah. He's giving us a reason.
Right.
And then another reason that this was stupid, and the generals are like telling G this is a bad idea, is because Sweden already started fucking with Denmark. So now you're going to have a war on 2 fronts, which is the worst thing you want against a power like Russia.
Oh, fy fan.
That's war fighting 101 is what I wrote here.
Yeah.
And the king thought, well, we can fuck with Denmark, but it's impossible to really fight Russia because Russia would never attack during the winter. So we got time to beat Denmark and then get back all our forces after beating Denmark and then protect Finland, because they would never attack in the winter.
Yeah.
The Swedish plan was to first passively defend and hold on to the fortifications in the southern coast of Finland because they had good resources and equipment, while the rest of the Swedish army would go to the north after that. Then in the spring, once the war starts back up, because they won't fight in the winter, they could counterattack simultaneously from the north and the south.
Yeah.
When the Swedish army has naval support and the Russian army is going to be all spread over Finland, and it'll avoid major decisive battles, is what they don't want to have, big fights.
Yeah.
So in the early 1800s, Sweden's war plan, to summarize, is passive aggression and conflict avoidance.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very Swedish.
Very Swedish.
Bra plan. Ska inte vara för aggressiva, ska inte vara för snälla.
The military leadership had their own strategic ideas. Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Muller wanted to take an immediate offensive, like go at Russia. Fuck it, let's go at them before they can come at us. And do it in the winter too. Like, fuck it, let's go. And then there was a he's a diplomat, Count Gustav Moritz Armfelt. And he was like...
He was a count?
Yeah.
En greve? Nice.
And he actively delayed the advancing enemies in cooperation. This was his idea. Actively delay advancing enemies in cooperation with the garrisons in the southern coast. So kind of like slowly reel them in type of thing.
Yeah.
And these are two very different strategies. So the king said, let's do a bit of both.
Konflikträdd som han var. Ja, men jag gillar grevens åsikt, men jag gillar Möllers åsikt. Jaha. Bägge två. Bägge gör det bara.
General Wilhelm Mauritz Klingspor was the new general. Now he was going to be in charge, and he got the orders from the king to mix the two ideas together, make it work out, and this was going to win the war. So Russia, on the other hand, had a different strategy.
Yeah.
They were sending spies, man. They were gathering intel the whole time that they're waiting. They're like, fuck it. They got intel on Finland using spies and other sources. The level of detail was so great that the Russian maps of Finland were in many respects more accurate than Swedish maps. Who owned the place.
Of course.
They used services of General George Magnus Springporten when forming their plans, and he suggested going forward to an offensive during the winter because Finland is mostly isolated when the seas are frozen. So it's like the perfect time.
Eller hur?
The plan involved using fortifications built in the late 1700s, and they were going to be in southern Finland because the armies, they wanted the armies to isolate the fortifications and then take control so they can get the whole south of Finland before they went north.
Yeah.
And then press the Swedes the whole time on the water, on land. They were just going to go all in. On February 21st, 1808, 24,000 Russian troops under Frederick Wilhelm von Buxhoevden crossed the border and took the town of Lovisa.
Jesus.
Klingspor still hadn't arrived yet. He's making his way there. And Lieutenant General Carl...
Sakta men säkert!
So they had a Lieutenant General act as commander in Finland. He's like, I'll hold it down until he gets here. And he was notified on the same day. So they sent a fast-ass raven. Russian invasion is here. And it was impossible to hold the line because the army is not fully here yet.
Hur många hade han? 5 pers.
Yeah, they're just like, hello.
How many are there? 24,000. Hur många är vi? 7.
And he ordered the army to assemble at Tavestehus. And then Klingspor arrived on March 2nd, a whole week later, after the war has begun. And he assumed command. And now that he was here, he could lead his troops into war. So he immediately ordered the army to withdraw.
Nej.
He's like, I'm here, and I looked around, and it's a bad idea to fight.
Han tittar upp över muren och säger, nu ska de få dem igen. Reträtt. Vi drar.
So in Savolax, the Russians forced the Swedes to withdraw. That's another city. And the king, he wasn't prepared for the attack because they never declared war officially. And a war can't happen if they don't put in for the paperwork.
Oh my god. Svenska byråkratin. Det är krig. Nej, det är det inte.
So there's various fortresses at the time all around Finland.
Okay.
There's 21,000 Swedish troops, right? So that's already half the size of the Russians that are coming.
Okay.
And the rest of Klingsport's army was unable to leave the south because they're fighting the Danes.
Yep.
So they can't come up and help out.
Yeah. So
the Russian advance swift. First day of the war, they captured Lovisa and took the Swedish sea fortress of Svartholm. There's a place called Borgå that was gone on the 24th. They took Helsingfors on the March 2nd. That's the day that he got there. Another city. They abandoned. The Swedes were like, fuck it. They left Hangö Peninsula. They were so that was taken, of course, because they had abandoned it on March 21st. And then on that day, same day, March 21st, the Russian army took Åbo. And then a small detachment of the Russian army was like, "Oh, let's go get Orland." So they went and did that.
God damn it!
Before the end, as a city called Vasa was taken as well.
Yeah.
So Savolax, which is where the other ones when the Russians advanced rapidly, and then they took on a place called Kuopio, and then Swedish forces just withdrew before the Russians could really get to them, and they just destroyed stuff as they left. So they're like burning and destroying shit and avoided conflict.
Herregud.
The Swedish archipelago fleet ships that were docked in Åbo, they torched them so that they can be
segla
taken.
Bort med dem.
They had a bunch of guns on them too, so they were like, I guess maybe that's partially why. I don't know.
Vad ska vi göra med vår flotta? Bränn den. Ska vi inte segla iväg med den? Nej. Ryssen kommer till fots, så vi seglar inte iväg.
The Swedish fortress of Svartholm, which was commanded by Major Carl Magnus Gripenberg, was not prepared for war, like most of these places.
Det var väl ingen som var det, va?
They had 700 men there, and only a third of them actually had functioning weapons.
Vad gjorde de andra då?
And most of the guns in the fortress didn't have carriages to hold the bullets. So the fortress fell into disrepair and lacked both adequate food and ammunition stores. So this would be information you run up the chain to let the leadership know that it's not a good idea to go to war. But they had no idea that they were so unprepared.
Vi har inga kanoner.
Nope.
Vi har ingen mat. Eller kanonerna går inte att hålla fast. Vi har ingen mat. 1/3 av vapen. Ska vi säga något till kungen? Nej.
He's not gonna care.
Du ska inte besvära honom med det här.
He's busy. He's busy not answering letters. And then even the wells there to get water, water, unusable. So
vem har kissat I brunnen?
So after the siege, February 21st, the Russians, they were like, "All right, we're kicking your ass. Surrender." They were like demanded some surrender, but the Swedes were like, "No, we do not surrender. We're running away, but we're still at war. We'll figure this out.
Things are going great."
And then March 2nd, they're like offered another surrender, and they were like, "Nope." And after a meager Russian bombardment, Gripenberg agreed to negotiations on March 10th. The fortress officially surrendered to the Russians March 18th after a siege that lasted roughly a month, with just one man having been wounded in action. That's all.
En skadad?
Only one.
I hela kriget?
Yeah. To take Svartholm.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And then Admiral Karl Olof Kronstedt, Admiral means it's Navy, he was prepared for the war. He had 6,000 men, 700 cannons, enough stores to last through the summer of the next year. And he
torched the ships.
They were strong enough to prevent Russians from trying to storm the fortress by surprise. Instead, the Russians hit Sveaborg, the other city, and they surrendered May 6th, 1808. After prolonged negotiations with Russians, as Kronstedt and his council believed, resistance was futile. He was like, they're everywhere. They're all around us.
Yeah.
We're prepared, but they'll take us all out.
Så det här är typ hela Finland, eller hur?
Yeah, basically, yeah. They're just knocking out Finland. I don't know Finnish geography, but...
I think so, because everything has been leading up like coastline.
Okay.
Helsingfors, Åbo, going up.
Okay. The Russians gained the main body of the Swedish archipelago fleet intact, as well as large stores of supplies and munitions.
Jesus.
So the burning didn't work. The Russians advanced considerably, but they had also gained the coastline, as you were saying. After the sea would be clear of ice, there would be nothing to prevent Swedish forces from landing troops on the shore, though.
Yeah.
So now we got a little hope. With the Royal Navy supporting the Swedish battle fleet, there was little the Russian battle fleet could accomplish.
Yeah.
The English.
Right.
Capture of the main body of the Swedish archipelago fleet had resulted in a real advantage to the Russians, since it allowed them to gain superiority in the narrow waters of the Finnish archipelago, where large ships of the line could not operate. Even the powerful explosion at Sveaborg, which destroyed several of the captured ships, did little to change Russian superiority in the archipelago. Russians used guns from the burned ship and those which burned during the winter, and constructed several fortifications on the coast. Under the next colonel, the Swedish army counterattacked and began to halt the Russian offensive. So now we got a little something. Swedish army, they started advancing back south, and it got a little bit of success. And the advance was slow. Operations were halted now because of the thaw. The ice is now turning into water.
Yeah.
And one exception was the brigade under Colonel Sandels, which swiftly advanced towards Kuopio, trying to take that back. And then this Russian general Tukov was dispatched to the north of Finland, and he left garrisons in every fort along his way. And it reduced his unit to 4,000 troops, which wasn't enough to hold him off. And the Finns, they started guerrilla fighting.
Nice.
Like hiding out in trees and shit, and like setting traps and like fighting like Vietnam type shit.
Snyggt.
And they started trying to take some way back. Now by May, Russians, they suffered more setbacks. They got driven away from Gotland.
Ja, de hade Gotland också.
Yeah, and Åland.
Yeah.
And there was a Swedish flotilla was supported by the local populations. So a little more kind of guerrilla shit.
Yeah.
And it compelled the small Russian force left on the main island to surrender. Then they invaded the island of Kumlinge, where the bulk of the Russian garrison on the Åland Islands were based. And after a 2-hour-long battle, the local militia, together with the Swedish landing force, overwhelmed their enemies.
Så det var inte ens den kungliga armén, det här var bara folk.
Yeah.
De bara, fuck it, vi gör det själva.
I can't do a Finnish accent, but yeah.
Vi gör det själva. Den där svenska kungen är sån liten tönt.
Exactly. And Colonel Vujic and his garrison, they surrendered. The what do you call it? Russian.
Han Tukov.
Yes.
Tukov du om mig, sa de. Tukov du om mig eller hatar du mig?
Then on May 26th, a British fleet carrying 14,000 troops under Sir John Moore entered the port of Gothenburg. Now we got some reinforcements.
Oh my God.
And this is the reinforcements the Swedes needed to turn this thing around. However, King G, had some disagreements with him. And it's probably over some bullshit. They don't say exactly what the disagreements were.
Ni måste prata svenska!
Did you sign up? Did you sign the papers? Did you send the paperwork?
Om ni kommer in i vårt land, då måste ni lära er språket.
So they didn't stay. They were like, all right, we'll move on and we'll go fight we can use these guys in France.
Yeah.
So
de åkte till Frankrike istället.
And Spain. They were like, we'll go. So they said, you know what? Since we can't come to an agreement on the troops, got some battleships for you, which you probably can't man because you don't have the troops. And here's 20 more ships. So 16 battleships and 20 travel ships that you can use. And we're going to keep going down. We got a war to fight. We don't have time to bicker with the fucking king.
Yeah.
So they didn't have those reinforcements. The two sides fought on through the summer months of June and July. They battled over Gotland in back and forth fashion. They fought on Åbo. Mm-hmm. The Russians were slowly advancing on Finnish territory, taking control. The Swedish side was becoming outnumbered as Russia gained land and their naval presence was increased to an equal number as the Swedish-Finnish fleet. Imagine if they would have had 14,000 more people.
Det hade hjälpt. Det hade hjälpt lite grann. Det hade jättefekt.
The Finnish guerrilla tactics were slowing them down a bit, but it was still coming down to numbers as the coastal support was now penetrated. By the end of July, the small forces Sweden had landed, and the men that had supported them were either beaten or withdrawn back to their ships.
Okay.
So now we're in the fall of 1808, and the war waged on through August and September, with Sweden trying to hold the line and win small battles throughout the land. The problem was there was still the pesky French and Denmark thing going on, and it was taking half of their troops, and they weren't equipped to defend off Russia at the same time. And by November 1808, the Russian forces had overrun all of Finland.
Shit.
On November 19th, the Convention of Olkijoki was signed.
Wait.
Olkijoki.
They were just like, okay, the meeting has begun. Okie. Så Finland är vårt nu. Okidoki.
They couldn't come up with any other names. So the Convention of Okiyoki was signed, and the Swedish army was forced to leave the Finnish countryside. The Russian emperor now got a little gas on his chest, as my grandma would call it.
Inte lika skön kille.
So now he was eager to bring hostilities to the territory of Sweden proper.
Yeah.
Which was certain to bring the war to a victorious end. So he's like, not only we have Finland,
we're gonna take the rest.
Let's creep over in there and make these motherfuckers quit.
Mm-hmm.
With this objective in mind, Kamensky is one of the advisors in Russia. He suggested a daring plan whereby the Russian army was to cross the frozen Gulf of Bothnia, which is not Bosnia with a lisp.
Men kejsaren hörde fel. He has a lisp. So, he wants to go by Bosnia.
The king sent all of the troops to Bosnia.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
And then the Swedes won. Yeah. Where's Bosnia? No, I mean for real. No, where is it?
I'm guessing it's around the west side of Finland. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But one unit was supposed to march from Vasa towards Umeå, so this got to be the north.
Oh yeah. Okay, sure.
And the other from Åbo to Åland.
Oh,
and then towards the vicinity of Stockholm.
Oh, so Bosnia must be Bottenhavet. I think because it's Östersjön,
so
then it blir Bottenviken heter det.
Okay.
So just where they meet at the point.
Okay.
I think that up is Bottenviken, so that
that's
must
the
be
Gulf of Bothnia. Okay.
Yeah.
And then a third unit would advance into Sweden by land, going around the Gulf and through the town of Tornio.
Right. Yep.
Now we're in the spring of 1809 as Russian forces embarked upon their unprecedented march across the frozen Gulf. King Gustav Adolf, was accused of fatal mistakes leading to the loss of Finland. He was dethroned.
Wow.
In Stockholm on March 13th, and his uncle was proclaimed Charles XIII of Sweden.
Karl XIII.
4 days later, the Bagratians Corps of 17,000 men occupied the strategic Åland Islands, while Kulnev led a vanguard further across the frozen sea on March 19th to reach the Swedish shore within 70 kilometers from Stockholm.
Shit.
And then when news of Kulnev's incursion spread to the Swedish capital, the new king sent an embassy to Knorring proposing a truce. He was like, fuck this war shit.
Yeah. I got your letters. I found them.
Normally this takes 2 months.
No, my predecessor, he's
procrastinating.
Illiterate. He can't read. I can. I'm Charlie.
The Russian commander, of course, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Speedily recalled Kulnev back to Åland. Meanwhile, the other Russian contingent, is 5,000 men, endured a great hardship in crossing the frozen Gulf further north, and they entered Umeå on March 24th. The third force, commanded by Count Shuvalov, struck against Tornio, and braving fierce frost, encircled the Swedish army, which capitulated on March 25th. 6 days later, the Tsar arrived in Åbo, and on learning about the truce, not only revoked Knorring's signature, but named Barclay de Tolly as the new commander-in-chief. Hostilities thus continued until May.
Shit.
When the Shuvalov finally reached Umeå, where he was succeeded by Kamensky. Then we're in the summer of 1809, second to last battle of the war at Rattan near Umeå in Västerbotten.
Yeah.
A British Royal Navy fleet under Admiral James Saumarez had arrived in Sweden in May, and he concentrated his ships, 10 ships of the line and 17 smaller ships, to the Gulf of Finland. Presence of the British naval units kept the Russian battle fleet strictly confined to Kronstadt. Imagine if the Gustav would have...
Right.
And after the British constructed artillery batteries to the Porkkala Cape, they cut off the coastal sea from Russian ships. And then total British control of the Gulf of Finland was a large obstacle to Russia.
Yeah.
So now they can't get through. They can't use the water. And the Royal Navy captured 35 Russian ships and burnt 20 others before leaving the Baltic Sea in September.
Shit.
1809. In August, Charles XIII, anxious to improve his position at a peace settlement, ordered General Gustav Wachtmeister to land in the north of Sweden and attack Kaminsky's rear.
När de drog sig tillbaka?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Engagements at Savar and Ratan proved inconclusive, and Kaminsky succeeded in neutralizing his belated counteroffensive, following up with a final victory over the Swedes at Piteå.
Huh.
So now, yeah. But that was basically the end. Wachtmeister's action was only a prelude to the peace negotiations that opened in August and resulted in the Treaty of Fredrikshamn, in which Sweden ceded the whole of Finland and all of its domains east of the Torn River, which is then called Västerbotten and today Norrbotten.
Yeah.
And Russia took over that.
Wow.
Sweden then joined this continental system.
Oh my god.
And closed its harbor to British ships, leading to a formal declaration of war on Great Britain.
Vad fan? Assholes!
A few months later, on January 6th, which we now know as when they tried to overthrow the U.S. government. A few months later, on January 6, 1810, the Russian government mediated the Treaty of Paris between Sweden and France.
Så det blev vi sams med Frankrike också.
Yeah, but they had the treaty.
Yeah.
And Russia would create the Grand Duchy of Finland. Duchy?
Yeah, the Duchess, the Dutch.
From the territory obtained from Sweden, and would detach the areas gained from Sweden in the 18th century. There was analysis done on this. This is like it's the end of the war. The analysis done said that sufficient stocks of supplies had not been prepared for the Swedish army.
Yeah.
Since King Gustav den Fjärde Adolf thought it might be taken as provocative by the Russians. Furthermore, Swedish strategy relied on the outdated plans for Finland, which took into account neither the advances in weaponry, mobility of the armed forces, or the greatly improved road networks of Finland. So they were just operating as if it was the 1500s or something.
Vilket stolpskott. Alltså, om inte jag hade precis lärt mig om typ 7000 kungar från Vasätten, då hade jag dykt in i den här stolpskottet. Men jag orkar inte. Fy fan, vilket pucko.
Most of the fortifications in Finland had not been completed, and those that were completed had mostly fallen into neglect and disrepair. Even the strongest of the Swedish fortresses, Sveaborg, still had several of its planned fortifications missing, most notably all the land side fortifications designed to protect against a besieging enemy.
Där behövs det ju inte. Det behövs ju inte där.
We got this.
Därifrån kommer fienden. Ska vi sätta upp någonting där? Nej.
We got it.
We got it.
In 1808, a British expeditionary force under John Moore arrived in Sweden, but after months of idleness departing the beginning of the war, it became known as the Spanish War of Independence. Had the king accepted the landing of 10,000 British troops in Skåne, where the expeditionary force had been authorized to disembark, it would have enabled the Swedes to release at least 10,000 trained soldiers for the Finnish War, which is what this is, the Finnish War.
Yeah.
As it happened, the bulk of the Swedish army, including the best units, were kept out of the Finnish War by the king, who reserved them for his plans for conquering either Sjælland, I guess, SJ.
Sjælland, yeah, it's a part of Denmark, yeah.
Or Norway.
Yeah.
Swedish landings were invariably made with poorly equipped and trained forces, often with troops who had very low morale. Landings were further complicated by the Swedish Navy's failure to tightly block the coastal sea route past Hangö. According to two 2015 studies by political scientists Jan Torell and Bo Rosten, Sweden's loss in the Finnish War led to reforms of the Swedish bureaucracy.
Okay.
Imagine that. Prior to 1809, Sweden had a reputation as one of Europe's most corrupt countries.
Nej.
But the loss in the war created the perception of an existential threat in the East for Sweden and motivated Swedish elites to reform its bureaucracy.
Intressant.
The motivation behind the reforms were to make the Swedish state more effective and functional, and thus protect the existential threat in the East.
So it's because of this that vi har vårdköer och Skatteverket och andra byråkrati.
All this other stuff to set us in straight. And that is the story of the Finnish War.
Thank you. I'm sad that it finished so badly. Vad intressant. Jag har hört talas om finska kriget, men jag har inte vetat vart i historien det har varit. Intressant.
Then, right? Yeah, because we've talked about Gustav Adolf and we've talked about Charles XIII.
Yeah, but
in passing.
Yeah, because we focused on like Gustav II Adolf, and this is much later.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Mm-hmm. It's like, but that's the last time Sweden was at war.
Yeah. Oh shit! Just det.
It's the last time. Yeah, they stopped.
That's it, right?
Yeah, so that's a good thing. Crazy. But yeah, that's it, man. That was.
God damn it! Thank you very much.
A little Sweden right there.
Intressant.
I thought it was cool, man.
Jätteintressant.
Thank y'all for listening. You can check us out more. We got a lot of episodes. If this is your first one you heard or you haven't heard them all, go back. A lot of fun episodes in the past. I listen back sometimes. It's good stuff.
Det är kul.
And you can send us
suggestions. Ja, ifall du vill att jag ska prata om någonting ur svensk historia, då kolla först att vi inte har pratat om det. Och så skriver du skriv så här, till Erik på teachmesweden@gmail.com.
Yep.
Och om du vill att det är Jonathan som ska få det, skriv det på engelska och skriv to Jonathan.
Yeah.
För vi ska inte se varandras ämnen.
We take it very seriously.
Yep.
We do not look at each other's stuff, man.
We have no idea. We don't look at each other's stuff, all right?
And if you, but you can write it in Swedish for me. Just make sure that in the title you write that it's to me.
Yeah, right.
So that, so don't feel like you have to have perfect English or anything like that.
Men bli Patreon också, för att patreon.com/teachmesweden. Jag tror att vi har typ 200 000 Patreons nu eller något sånt där. Det går skitbra, så bli en av dem. Bli vår 200 000 Varför inte?
Get ad-free episodes and extra conversations before and some extra stuff. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for checking it out. It's been Jonathan Rollins
och Erik Broström
teaching you Sweden.
Fred.